Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. Today, on the program, airport authorities set plans for the influx of travelers during the Christmas break. Manila International Airport Authority Officer in Charge Bryan Co joins us in the program. And later, transport groups extend their strike to protest the year-end deadline to consolidate PUV operators. The government warns permits to operate of those who fail to consolidate with other operators and drivers will be revoked. Manibela Chairperson Marvel Buena tells us more later in the show. With the Christmas break right around the corner, airport authorities are bracing for the Christmas rush. Officials are expecting a significant increase in both domestic and international travelers in the country's main airport as early as this week. Let's go straight to the source of the story, Manila International Airport Authority Officer in Charge Bryan Co. Bryan, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Hi, good morning, Ria. Thanks for having us again in CNN.
All right, lots of questions to ask you. Let's start with the holiday rush. For one thing, how is the Manila International Airport Authority preparing for the influx of passengers, as I'm sure this influx has actually already begun?
Yes, you are actually right. We've been noting an increase of number of passengers since yesterday, Monday, and over the last weekend. So we expect already some passengers and some travelers going overseas or going to the provinces. We are right now at around 140,000 passengers per day. Our usual numbers are around 120 to 130,000 passengers per day. So the preparations have begun actually earlier, towards the earlier part of December, where we met with the different stakeholders, such as the airlines, the government agencies that are working with us, so that we can make sure that all of the resources are in place to make sure that this peak season preparation is all set already.
All right, so about 140,000 people a day. How high could this go at the height of the holidays? And when do you expect to see the number of passengers increase further?
Yes, we expect to have a bit of an increase towards this weekend as, of course, the work days conclude before Christmas. So the usual trend is there are more inbound, or let's say for international travelers, there are more arrivals before Christmas. And towards after New Year, there will be more departures for those that will be going back overseas, especially for the balikbayans and the OFWs. So we could see that from 140,000, it could increase to around 145 to 150,000 during certain days. Definitely not the whole, not all of the days for the remainder of the December month, but for certain days, especially before Christmas and after New Year, that's when we can see that the numbers could spike.
All right, so you're definitely going to surpass the numbers from last year because you've already done that. So up to about 150,000 people a day on certain days, as you said. So with this large volume of people in the different airports, talk to us about the on-time performance of aircrafts. Is that something that will be able to be maintained over this period?
It definitely something that we are aiming to be able to sustain, because in the past 3 months we've been averaging around 80% on-time performance. But of course, this requires collaboration and of course the inputs of the different stakeholders, especially the airlines, to have their resources available. The aircraft should be available, they should be serviceable for the flight so that they can fly according to schedule. So now we are working with the major carriers and of course the foreign carriers that are operating here in MIAA to make sure that they have enough resources, not just the aircraft, but the employees also are available, as well as the ground equipment that are needed to service these flights. So the target is of course for us to be able to sustain that good performance that we did last Undas and even the Holy Week 2023. So I think we're all set because of all the preparations that we've made since the start of this year.
Right, so 80% of flights have been on time for the past 3 months. How does 80% compare with other airports around the world?
Yes. The 80% is actually part of an international benchmark. In terms of 80%, that is within the acceptable standards, which means 4 out of 5 flights that you operate are on schedule, or leaving within 15 minutes or arriving within 15 minutes of the published schedule. So that puts us, of course, in the range of the other airports that are operating in a good way in terms of their efficiency. So we are very happy with the 80%, but what we need to do is work together so that we can sustain and maintain, or if not, increase that 80% to around 82, 85% if we can.
Right, and as you said, you need to speak to other stakeholders for that. How is your coordination with the airlines, and what other measures are you implementing to maintain the flow of passengers at NAIA?
As I mentioned, of course, the other stakeholders play a critical role in terms of ensuring that the flow is managed well. Of course, we have different queuing points. Their airlines would be responsible for certain resources, such as in the check-in counters. They should have enough of the agents. Of course, their ground service equipment should be there to service all of let's say, the baggage and other things that are needed for the aircraft. And of course, the government agencies that are working with MIAA also play a key role, especially immigration, final security with ODS, and the other agencies. Of course, we have been working with them through several months now in trying to improve the efficiency of the airport. And so far, based on the programs that we've implemented, we think that we are all ready for this surge. Of course, one thing that we'll be making sure here in the sector is we have enough buffer or allowances so that we can cater to the expected additional passengers that will be using our airports.
Right. Immigration lines at the different AIA terminals have become infamous at certain points just because the lines are so long. My personal experience was when I traveled in the first week of December. I was in an immigration line for more than maybe 30 minutes. How long are those lines now? What can passengers expect?
Well, compared to how it was earlier this year, I think a significant improvement was when we implemented this schedule and terminal assignment rationalization program, where we turned NAIA Terminal 2 into an all-domestic terminal. That would mean that the CIQ resources, or the ones that we use for international flights, like for customs, immigration, and quarantine, are just deployed right now on terminals 1 and 3, which means they are more efficiently deployed compared to before when they were under 3 roofs. So also to complement that, MIAA has been able to increase the number of stands, or the desks for immigration, especially for departures. The NAIA Terminal 3 at the start of this year only had 26 immigration counters. We were able to increase that to 43 immigration counters within the year, so that, of course, in coordination with the Bureau of Immigration, we should ensure that they have enough agents and we are able to deploy enough of these immigration desks so that we can accommodate the expected surge in the number of passengers as we open up our borders even more. So, but apart from that, of course, the use of the e-gates, especially for the arriving passengers, are being promoted by the Bureau of Immigration. And hand in hand, I think we still have additional enhancements that we will be introducing even next year, so that we can cope up with the ever-increasing number of travelers that are using the NAIA.
Yeah, those e-gates are pretty nice. They get you through very quickly. Now, of course, this year started not so well when we had that big glitch over the new year. There's some concerns around that. Understandably, people have feared that that might happen again. Are we confident this time that this will not be repeated?
Yes, based on the discussions with the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, they have implemented a lot of changes and improvements in terms of the air traffic management system that had an issue last year. I remember January 1, there was a glitch that affected hundreds of flights. So the necessary improvements and redundancies have been put in place earlier this year, so that we can avoid any possible repeat of that scenario. And for the systems that are deployed in MIAA, such as the power generators, the circuit breakers, the transformers, a lot of these equipment have been upgraded over the past few weeks. If you can remember, that's starting end of November up to around December 13, we implemented a series of scheduled maintenance upgrades in Terminal 3 so that we can replace this equipment so that the resiliency and the reliability of our electrical systems in the NAIA terminals would increase, and this could actually mitigate any possible effects of a power outage.
All right, that certainly would be ideal. Bryan, reminders to passengers traveling this holiday season. What should they remember? Are there any ways that they can make travel more efficient? For example, online paying of their travel tax.
Correct. You are correct that, of course, for the passengers, our reminder would be whatever you can do online or do before you go to the terminal, you have to do it already so that it will help facilitate ease in travel. So, apart from the Philippine travel tax, of course, if you can check in online, especially for domestic flights, if you do not have baggage to check in, if you do check in online, you can go directly to the gates and avoid the check in queues. And of course, for international flights, even if you have to join the check-in queues for verification of your information, it still takes less time for the check-in agent to be able to process you if you have pre-filled up all of these information when you do it online. Apart from that, of course, we have to remind everyone to fill up the e-travel form. This is being used by our Bureau of Immigration as well as Customs and Quarantine so that you won't have any issues when you fall in line through immigration and customs for those that are arriving. Of course, you can fill that up as early as 72 hours before your flight. So, of course, another reminder is for our travelers to be at the airport 3 hours before their scheduled flight for international flights and around 2 hours for domestic flights.
All right, so 2 hours if you're on a domestic flight, 3 hours before if you're going international. Lastly, talk to us a little bit about the time it takes to travel to the different NAIA terminals. How much more time should travelers allot just getting to the airport?
Well, of course, it will depend on the time of the day. As we hit Christmas rush, you will note that there are certain congestion around the metro. So it is very important for our passengers to pre-plan their trips going to the airport. Since they need to be at the airport at least 2 to 3 hours before their flights, they have to incorporate also the traffic conditions surrounding the city. So we recommend that, of course, they calculate that travel time, and of course, they should be at the airport at our recommended times, 2 to 3 hours before their scheduled flight, so that they have enough time to be processed on the different transactions that they have to do at NAIA airports.
Right, it doesn't hurt to be very, very early. Bryan, thank you so much for talking to us here on The Source. That was Manila International Airport Authority Officer in Charge, Bryan Co. Up ahead, we speak with Manibela Chairman Mar Valbuena as transport groups warn of more strikes until the end of the year. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.